Welcome back to the morning show here on Rise News. We're going straight to it, Chico.
The Nigerian nation is going through a lot of restructuring at the moment, having solidified the transition of democracy from one party to another. Some other salient issues that have constantly reared its head is corruption, the rule of law, and governance.
It is very obvious and no longer news that political and public offices which call for commitment and sacrifice have now become the sole source of wealth for the few that have been invested with democratic trust.
Joining us now from Abuja studio on the critical analysis of the state of the nation is Buba Galadima, public affairs analyst, the former secretary of the defunct Congress for Progressive Change. Great to have you, Alaji. Alaji, good morning. How are you doing?
Thank you.
All right. Alaji, let's talk about the things happening in the country. This government now with the challenges of not obeying court order, the case of Showore is one. There's also the burning issue of not transmitting power properly while leaving the country. What would you like to make of these two issues before we continue? Because we're talking about a retinue of issues this morning.
Well, let me say that these are what you think are burning issues. To me, there are other more serious and burning issues in this country that until we address them, we are not going to get where we ought to be.
Okay, what are those issues for you,
Well, I'm just getting to that.
Okay.
The most serious issue is that there are a lot of allegations flying around on the issue of the judiciary. Because if we are not careful, the judiciary and our electoral empire, the INEC, will destroy this country completely. We have seen where citizens have resorted to self-help because they have no access to all the goodies of life, and they see public officers feeding fat on the country, building mansions across the country, in their villages, in towns. Public officers own 95% of properties in Nigeria rather than businessmen or business interests or business concerns. These are issues. For example, I want to give a typical example which Nigerians should take seriously. Yesterday, I was with two senators, one of them from PDP, one of them from APC. We were in a friend's house up to 2 a.m. this morning. You could see that I've not slept very well because I cried for our nation. And they painted a gloomy picture of what is happening across the country in tribunals and in appeal courts on the issue of the 2019 elections. And there was this allegation made eloquently by one of the senators who need to know, an APC senator, that unknown to many Nigerians, there are committees that were set up by government that was liaisoning with the judiciary as to who should get justice. This is worrisome. And I also read a press release by the PDP, Kwala Alagbadion, that judges that were to sit on Kano appeal, which is supposed to start today or Monday, have been changed 3 times because eventually the government did not find those judges that were to sit on this appeal as compliant judges. Where are we heading for? If the judiciary, the last hope of the common man, is now the best hope of the strongest and those in power, where are we heading to? That INEC determines who wins the election, not the people. This is where our problem is. The question of public officers helping themselves and looking larger than life is not even an issue that we need to address because it's prevalent everywhere. Let me give one example. In every ministry, I challenge government that 70% or 75% of recurrent expenditure is being stolen and shared by public officers in government because every ministry has got about 100 registered companies. they ask you to tender for projects. 1,000,001 Nigerians will tender and spend their money in processing those tenders. But none of the tenders is being looked at. They are just locked up in a room and later on burnt. They bring out their companies, 2 or 3, and do selective tendering. They give one to themselves, and they just sit down, write checks, and collect the money in cash and share. It has never been as bad as we find ourselves today. Where money goes is, for example, I'm coming. Take insurance. Monies are just being shared. Take consultancy. Monies are just being shared. For doing nothing, monies that are meant for development of our country is being shared by people. And we are a docile group of individuals. In certain countries, if 1% of what happens in Nigeria happen, the whole country will turn upside down. What are we doing as citizens of this country? People we have elected, we are supposed to have elected with our own votes, have now become kings, have now become lords, in fact, approaching to become God. May God save Nigeria.
Okay, Alhaji, you made some very strong allegations here. You talked about the fact that an APC senator told you that the process of election tribunal, the APC had a committee to liaise with the judiciary. Alhaji, can you substantiate something? Because these are very critical allegations.
I said there is this allegation. I said there is this allegation. You better understand English.
Go ahead, Alhaji.
You said?
Alhaji, go ahead. You said you talked about those allegations. Let's hear it again.
I said there was this allegation. I said there was this allegation. There was this allegation that people determine who will receive. Now, let me give you an example. Colonel Dasuki was being arrested for money laundering and possession of 3 pistols. He has been under detention for the last, 4 years? He has been in detention. But we also know that APC governors imported about 2,000 AK-47 rifles, sold military uniforms, police uniforms to be used for election. And one of them had the guts and the courage to return 1,000 AK-47 guns. Is he supposed to be in possession of those guns?
Alhaji,
is he allowed to import guns? For who?
He said he purchased them for the state.
You know this.
Governor Amos said he purchased those guns for the state. He said those guns were meant for the state, that he purchased them for the state. That was his...
Is that his role? Is that his role? Do we have a state police? Do we have a state police? Did you read the Firearms Act? Can a governor has the power to import guns for the state? To do what? To kill political opponents?
Okay, Alhaji, let me draw your attention to a statement credited to you, and I would like you to clarify, and I will quote what you were said to have said. You said, President Muhammadu Buhari has always been drafted to contest elections, and I wouldn't be surprised if his supporters draft him into the 2023 race, end quote. Those were your words according to the publication. And I want you to clarify, are you saying President Muhammadu Buhari is seeking a 3rd term? I mean, the Constitution is very clear on presidential term limits in Nigeria. Do you have evidence to substantiate this claim?
Well, you have already said it all. That's why you have already said it all. I said the man will be drafted. He has always been drafted to hold an office. He has never asked to occupy an office until others draft him into it. This is one. Number 2, time will tell. I have said 1,000,001 things that had come to pass in this country. If we were in an uncivilized country, others would even say, I have a super intelligence of knowing the future. You know why? There are already people setting committees who are trying to amend the Constitution for a for a 6-year single term. The man will tell you he's not the one that is setting the committee. It may be right. But those that are doing that behind the scene are people very, very close to him. Once they succeed, he will now be persuaded to come and run. That is why I laugh when I see some people jostling around, fighting themselves, brothers and friends, fighting themselves that they want to be president. They are trying to age each other. They have not seen anything yet. This, you are dealing with a military man. Those of us who know military people, you will never know their frame of mind. That is the fact of the case, and Nigerians will see, time will tell whether I am going to be a liar or I am going to be a true soothsayer, if you want to call me that one.
For the purpose
Don't
of
worry.
this conversation and to a 6 single-term tenure, the president will not qualify because he's on his second 4-year term. So are you saying after doing these 8 years, he's going to do another 6 years? Adesua, please, because you are not a lawyer, I am not one. That's why you don't understand. I hope you know Shegun Osoba. Yes.
Do you know him? Prince Abubakar Audu, Hashidu, Bukaraba Ibrahim of Yobe. You know they contested election under a constitution in 1992. And when they came to contest in 1979, there was this argument. The Supreme Court said that they contested that election under a different constitution. So this 2023 would be under a different constitution. Not this your constitution, because it has already been amended. So everybody has got the right to contest. That is the situation. That is the law. So, and I want to tell you something. Do you know why up to now the president has not signed the Electoral Act, which he promised us on the eve of the election? And I want to remind the Nigerians that he is not signing the Electoral Act because it is too close to the elections, which I disagreed on that at that time. Now, he has been president according to INEC and the judiciary for how many months? 6 months. He is now the incoming government. Why didn't he sign? Why are we not holding him responsible to sign that Electoral Act? He is not signing because they want to doctor the Electoral Act and introduce what would enable him, again, help himself to be the president for the 3rd time.
Okay, thank you very much. So we're going to go on a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be discussing more issues about the state of the nation. Stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We're still joined from our Abuja studios by Buba Galadima, a public affairs analyst and former national secretary of the defunct Congress for Progressive Change. Now, sir, I know that you had mentioned earlier that we had more burning issues, but I would like to bring your attention back to the current case of Mr. Sowore and Bakari that are still in the detention of the DSS. Now, why are we still having the federal government flaunt court orders that are being set across by the judiciary? Now, Mr. Falana has made an observation against this, saying that the federal government responds to foreign directives or foreign courts than they would a Nigerian court. Why are we still having this issue? He's been given an order to be released. Why is he still in detention? Why are we still having problems like this?
That's why I think when it is your turn, you will understand whether this government respects the rule of law or not. And I want you as pressmen to be a little bit investigative. Sowore, a very close friend of mine with whom I have related for about 20 years now, and who had supported our cause when we were in the opposition against the PDP and supported General Buhari. It's just one of those cases that we have a government that fights those who have helped it to be where they are. Take the issue of El Zakzaky. Several times, the president and some of his close aides have supported El Zakzaky's position when they were being harassed by the then government of the day. You also know that Dasuki had been in detention for all this long. Now it is Showere. Tomorrow it may be you. And this is why you can also recall that Justice Onoge was one of the 3 justices of the Supreme Court, himself, Justice Aloma Mutar, and Justice Aguntade, that gave judgment to General Buhari in 2007. And it was because of that his principled stand against the government of that day, and they thought that they could not manipulate him. That is why they removed him. And this is why I also say he refused to sign the Electoral Act 2 years as they were doing brickbatting with the National Assembly on this issue. So all this goes to tell you how far this government can go to tramp on the rights of Nigerians. It is Showere today. It can be you or it can be me tomorrow. So Nigerians, all of us, let's not play the ostrich like the German priests had done during the fascist regime and thought that it is not their turn. It will be our turn either as individuals or as a group. Chief Obasi had just spoken about the closure of the border. How can Nigeria move forward when you don't have leaders with large heart, when you don't have leaders with foresight, when you don't have leaders with vision, when you don't have leaders with foresight? Let's take Brazil. In 2002, Brazil was almost bankrupt. In fact, the World Bank was about auctioning Brazil because they became insolvent. There came a leader. Within 4 years, he straightened the Brazilian economy and then contested for another 4 years. After 8 years, the World Bank was trying to get loan from Brazil to help the World Bank assist other nations of the world. So our issue is about leadership. How? First, we must have education. Our citizens must be educated. But how can they be educated when only 4 to 5% of our national budget is given to education? We must do production, do farming, do whatsoever. We must do agriculture. We must do processing. Unless we do that, we cannot come out of the woods. Now, they have closed the border without telling us what do they intend to do. Do what? You close the border. Do you know that these our neighbors are our life-saving, or what do you call it? During our trials in the 70s, some of these countries have what you so-called Nigeria. Had they supported General Charles de Gaulle, Nigeria would have been in pieces by today. Now, and if our leaders have foresight, these are our primary market. When we develop and produce and manufacture, these are the markets we will send our goods, and we become truly the giant of Africa. But because we have no leadership with foresight, leadership with vision, leadership with goal, they just do things with instinct.
Okay,
this is why Nigeria will never...
Time, and we have so many things to discuss. In all of this, you should have given me 1 hour, not half an hour. Okay, perhaps we'll bring you back again. But let me ask you, in all of this, the PDP, the main opposition party, seems to be missing. The APC in recent time had said the nation has become a one-party state. Has the PDP become rudderless? Was the fate of the opposition tied to that outcome of the presidential election?
Well, let me say that the PDP has ought to put its act together. They should act as one members of the same family. They should be they are brothers, each a keeper, and they should work with the purpose. For now, I have not seen that. Everybody is on his own. In the night, Wike said some of them go to the presidency to pledge their support. And even when they have an election as crucial as it is in Kogi and Bayelsa, how many governors have shown interest to be in those states to help their brothers win those elections? And I want to say that next Saturday, you would see the greatest unleash of violence by the state on the citizens of those two states, because they would want to take Bayelsa by force. They are already deploying Navy, we learned. They would want to take Kogi by force because they have already sewn uniform and given people AK-47. That is what we hear, whether it is true or false. Saturday will remain what we will see. Whether INEC chairman Mahmoud will live by his words or he will be forced to manipulate the elections in favor of the party. I'm coming. Okay. I'm coming. What is before Nigerians, which we need to know, is that we must stand up and fight for one man, one vote. And we must force the president to sign the Electoral Act so that the votes of every individual counts. Unless we get that and we have the opportunity and the willpower to change governments, our rights will be trampled upon. There will be no rule of law. And the judiciary must sit up because they are the representative of God. Some of them claim to be Christians. Some of them claim to be Muslims. While every religion supports justice, but they promote injustice. They tramp on the rights of the weak and self-help. May God save us.
Okay, Alhaji, you made a lot of allegations here today that we'll still want you to substantiate on. Take, for instance, Alhaji, hang on a minute. Alhaji, let me have my way to say this, please. You made a lot of allegations. You talked about the fact that violence might happen in the Kogi election, but the government has reassured us that might not happen. You even talked about Inasu Lula da Silva that was still found for corruption, despite the fact that he was a good leader. And to put on top of all of this, Alhaji, you talked about the fact that justice was not done in the Electoral Petition Tribunal, but a lot of people said the PDP didn't present a solid case, that the case the PDP presented lacked logic. What's your take on this?
Well, if that is what you thought, other Nigerians feel contrary. 99.99% of Nigerians believe that no justice was done because the Nigerian judicial system now is compromised towards taking decision on technicality rather than the facts of the case and the truth. If Atiku says, for example, that INEC has server, the tribunal should have given him the opportunity to go and inspect that server. If Atiku says that there was no election in Yobe, there was no election in Borno, there was no election in Jigawa, there was no election in Niger, there was no election in this, in that, judiciary should have said, it's okay, bring all those materials before us, inspect in our presence, and let's see. And let's look at the manual voters register, whether people have voted or not. They have refused to do that.
Thank
Therefore,
you so much,
this
Alhaji.
in itself is injustice.
One thing is certain, we'll still definitely bring you for 1 hour to talk about this issue, because there's still a lot we need to talk about. Thank you so much for your time, Alhaji Buba Galadima. All right, that's our show for you today.
Indeed,
but just before you close,
we have to go now.
We have to go, Alhaji.
We're so sorry. And that brings us to the end.
And I'm Shaito Antigari. Thank you for watching. From our entire team here in Lagos, enjoy the rest of your morning and the rest of your day. Goodbye.